Slip beneath the velvet silence of an Indian night centuries ago. Let your mind wander through moonlit fields and labyrinthine village lanes, where every whisper seems to linger and the world transforms beneath the eternal gaze of the stars. Tonight, we embark on a gentle, immersive journey, uncovering the hidden struggles, silent fears, and surprising comforts that peasant families found in the darkness of Mughal India. Before we drift any further into tonight's journey, could you let us know in the comments below where you're tuning in from? It's always a comfort to see how many different places we all call home, sharing this peaceful night together. Let the day slip away, gently and without hurry, as Mughal India bathes in the final glow of sunset. Have you ever paused at the close of day, feeling the air grow heavier as golden light softens the world around you? Tonight, I invite you to imagine yourself standing at the edge of a sprawling field, a sea of waving stalks, their tips crowned with rays that linger just a moment longer before surrendering to dusk. Evening's arrival is both a hush and a transformation. Villagers, who have worked under the steady watch of the sun, begin to gather their tools with quiet, practiced movements. You can hear the faint laughter of children herded home, the low, rhythmic calls of workers exchanging last words before parting ways. Can you hear it? The way distant voices seem to float through cooling air, softening as if the world itself wishes for everything to become gentle, slow, and close. The heat recedes from the packed earth, and beneath your feet, the ground seems to release a day's worth of warmth, just a reminder of light before the chill returns. Birds call out, their voices subdued now, settling into the safety of heavy branches or the eaves of mud brick homes. A soft rustle sweeps across the fields, stalks of rice, wheat, or millet brushing together beneath a rising breeze that carries hints of dust and distant water. Does the evening air where you live ever seem to change its taste? In this corner of the world, dusk is scented with smoke and spices, cardamom and wood, mingling with the green tang of crops waiting for nightfall's dew. Lanterns begin to blink alive among scattered cottages, each flame a promise of warmth and refuge as shadows stretch thin and long over the land. As the sun melts below the horizon, a gentle hush descends. Even the livestock seem to grow quiet. You might hear the last bleat of a goat or the shuffle of a sleepy ox settling down behind worn fences. Somewhere not far off, an old woman calls her grandchildren closer, her voice weaving through air now cool and soft as a cotton shawl. Let yourself linger here for a moment. Notice the feeling of fabric wrapped snug around your shoulders, the way the fading sun tingles on your cheeks, the earthy scent rising up with every step, and the golden light that seems to slow time itself. If you could hold one moment from dusk forever, which would it be? The way the light dances on the water, or the sound of distant laughter carried on the breeze? The world turns quieter still. Lanterns flicker by every entryway, and a gentle breeze presses against the window screens, trembling the edge of each delicate flame. Soon, the first stars will glimmer above, scattered across a sky faded from indigo to deepest blue. Is there a sight that brings you peace as day turns to night? A color? A shape? A shadow? Let the image settle in your mind and carry it with you as we continue. As the last color drains from the horizon and villagers withdraw into their homes, the fields sigh with the memory of warmth and the early promise of night. The transition is seamless. The embrace of dusk slips naturally toward the deeper mysteries and gentle rituals that come alive once the fields have grown quiet and the lamps glow behind closed doors. Nightfall in a Mughal-era village arrives quietly, casting a magical transformation that seeps softly into every corner. Have you ever stepped outside just as the sun has disappeared, sensing the world pausing for a heartbeat, waiting for the gentle embrace of night. Allow yourself to wander these ancient narrow lanes, where each step brushes against the hush of history. The very air seems to thicken with twilight. Colors fade as shadows stretch from stretching banyan trees and thatched roof lines. Oil lamps flicker to life, golden droplets in the growing dark, painting warm halos inside small mud brick homes. In the distance, a breeze stirs the last embers of wood smoke from open hearths, carrying faint hints of cumin and earth. Can you smell it? That sweet blend of fire, dust, and spice. A scent you might imagine curling beneath blankets and through tiny windows. Listen, too, for the subtle shuffling of sandals on packed paths as villagers make their final rounds. Within each home, the evening song slows. Women move with measured grace between doorstep and kitchen, their bangles chiming softly as hands finish the last sweep of the floor. Children's laughter drifts lower, gentle now, hushed by the comfort of routine and the weight of a long day. Have you ever felt the special hush that seems to descend with darkness? How families settle, conversations quiet, and every house seems wrapped in its own world. Livestock nuzzle in shadowed corners, their breathing a natural chorus to the settling calm. From above, the sky reveals its slow transformation, a gradient from indigo to deep velvet sprinkled with early stars. You might notice, if you close your eyes, the faint sound of a distant conch blown at a temple or the first muted notes of a prayer that anchors the village to the night. Lamps are shielded with careful hands, flames trembling softly as fathers count out the last grains of rice. Mothers fold fabric over slumbering children, and siblings share whispered promises meant only for the dark. Outside, the world seems to shrink and expand all at once. The village feels both like a small universe, each household a self-contained sun, and part of a vast, breathing tapestry connected by shadow, scent, and song. Do you have a memory of dusk, where every sound seems amplified? The simple chores and chatter suddenly deeper, more significant? Take that memory and hold it close as we walk. You might glimpse the outlines of neighboring homes, brush fences glowing faintly, and animals curling together for warmth. Every so often, a tiny glowing window reminds you that you are not alone, that countless small worlds share these rituals, threading the village together. Lanterns bob in the hands of latecomers. Quick footsteps echo on earthen lanes as one last message or treat is exchanged between friends. Soft voices now replace the rough calls of daytime labor. Inside each home, families gather close, stories shared in gentle tones, questions posed with care, and soft laughter lighting the dark. The rhythm of the day gives way to the patient anticipation that night brings. Rest, safety, and, beneath it all, dreams that stretch toward tomorrow. As you breathe in the scene, let the warmth of the lamplit village linger in your senses. The golden light on smooth mud walls, the subtle taste of cool night air, and the soundscape of hushed routines winding down. If you were here this evening, what would you savor most? The company of loved ones, the simple taste of freshly cooked bread, or the silence that only night can bring? Each detail is an invitation to slow down and share in the comfort of traditions passed from one generation to the next. With routines ending and the world outside cloaked in softness, the village prepares gently for sleep. The calm deepens, carrying you with it, hand in hand with those who, across centuries, have found quiet assurance in the rituals of night. And as the last oil lamp is trimmed, and every voice finds its place in the sweet tapestry of nightfall, we move naturally onward, together, toward the heart of these humble homes, where family, history, and night's gentle mysteries await. As the night fully claims the village, our gaze turns inward, toward the humble, earth-walled dwellings where peasant families of Mughal India sought shelter. Can you imagine stepping out of velvety darkness, brushing past a thin wooden door, and entering a home where the boundary between indoors and outdoors feels so slight that the world seems to breathe right through the walls? Let's wander gently, room by room, and discover the quiet simplicity, soft perils, and subtle tenderness sheltering inside. The walls themselves are living things, sun-dried mud, roughly smoothed by each season's repairs, sometimes streaked with rain's memory. If you run your fingers along their surface, you'd find them cool, uneven, dotted with tiny holes or faint cracks that allow night air to weave in and out. Have you ever known a home that seems to shift with the weather, where winter's draft or summer's heat slips easily through every join? In these houses, comfort is never a guarantee. The walls hug their families with what little strength they can muster. Beneath your feet, the floor is hard-packed earth, a patchwork of straw, ash, and soil stamped smooth by generations. In winter, it clings to the night's chill, biting bare toes and creeping up the spine. In summer, it sweats, sticky and alive with faint smells of clay and food. You might hear a soft crunch with each step, bits of dried grass breaking under heel, mingling with the quiet swirl of dust. Sometimes, in the half-light of the oil lamp, you'll see tiny figures, ants, beetles, crickets, making their slow and determined way from corner to corner, their movements barely noticed amid the family's own life. Does your home ever feel like it hums with unseen company at night? Here, the insects are a constant presence. Their chirps thread through silence, joined by the rustle of lizards across thatch or the flutter of a moth seeking the lamp's glow. Occasionally, a stray frog's croak, carried in from a garden ditch, adds a sudden pulse of sound. These small creatures, invited or not, form an inevitable part of the home's living tapestry, a reminder that these thin walls invite the outside in. The living space is open, multi-purpose, and dense with life. Bedding, just layered cloth, well-worn mats, or the family's best rug, is unrolled on the floor each night, forming a simple patch where everyone curls together for warmth. Have you ever shared your sleeping space so closely with others that you wake in the night, tangled in gentle limbs, or blanketed by a cousin's laughter? For these families, nights are an orchestration of shifting bodies, soft snores, and half-whispered stories fading with the lamplight. Livestock, too, join the family on cold or dangerous nights. Goats and calves nestle at the farthest edge, their bodies a source of warmth and practical security. Occasionally, you'll hear the faint snuffle of a cow, the clop of hooves shifting in straw, or the soft, steady breath of a sleepy donkey. These animals, though sometimes rowdy, are trusted guardians, alert to any stranger's tread, their noises blending into the home's unique lullaby. At the heart of the home sits a low fire, its smoky breath curling out of a gap or crude chimney above. The fire is both shield and beacon, painting soft shadows on the rough walls, warding off some insects and the most persistent chill. Have you ever stared at a dying flame, watching patterns dance on the ceiling while your family settles nearby? In this place, the glow wraps the night in reassurance, its smoke scent lingering in every cloth, every strand of hair, every dream. Sometimes, when wind picks up or a storm rattles the roof and shutters, the home seems to shrink. Rain trickles through thatch. Breezes tug at door seams and make the lamp flicker. On these nights, the tenuousness of the barrier between family and the world outside feels keenly sharp. Each creak and moan of the roof brings a silent hope that the night won't grow harsher. Have you ever lain awake, listening for the world to grow calm, wishing your own room just a bit sturdier or warmer? Yet inside these thin walls, a quiet courage and resilience take root. Each patch in the plaster, each mended mat, each sweep of the floor is an act of hope, proof that even in homes so fragile, comfort, safety, and belonging can be created anew every night. The small rituals, the evening prayers, the sharing of scraps, the gentle touch of a mother tucking in her son, bind the family together far more tightly than any stone or wood could promise. Let this picture settle in your mind. The hush of a family breathing in the dark, the shifting forms of animals at their side, the outside world's dangers kept at bay, not by brick or lock, but by love, routine, and humble endurance. As the hours stretch on and the lamp's glow dims, the home becomes not only shelter, but sanctuary, a place where thin walls and earthy floors cradle dreams as surely as any palace. And so, with the soft pulse of insects, the gentle warmth of bodies close together, and the flicker of fire on earthen walls, another peasant night unfolds, leading quietly onward, blending seamlessly into the mysteries, anxieties, and shared moments that await as deeper night settles throughout the land. Night in the Mughal countryside was never simply empty darkness. It was a living, breathing presence that carried the weight of every fear, real and imagined. Have you ever lain awake, heart pounding, certain that something waited just out of sight? Let the feeling slip over you as you settle into a peasant home, where the thin walls seem more like promises than shields, and every sound becomes a story waiting to unfold. As moonlight fell softly across tangled lanes and rice fields, villagers huddled close. Outside, the ordinary world was transformed. Each gust of wind sounded like a warning. The night magnified every whisper and creak, and the familiar suddenly became strange. Do you remember how your own room could change after sunset? A jacket on a chair becoming a lurking figure, a familiar shape suddenly unsettling? For families in Mughal India, the stakes were higher, the shadows deeper, and the night's silence far more absolute. The first danger was always very real. Wild animals moving just beyond the fence line. Jackals howled, their cries lonely and wild, weaving between the yips of stray dogs on patrol. Sometimes a leopard, drawn by livestock, padded soundlessly at the edge of the fields. Can you imagine listening for the snap of a twig, wondering if it's a goat shifting in sleep or something with sharper teeth and darker hunger? Farmers checked their livestock again and again, hard in mouth with each sudden noise. The night belonged to creatures for whom darkness offered freedom, and every village child was raised on tales, warning them against wandering under the moon. Bandits, too, haunted these hours. The night offered cover for those desperate enough to steal, snatch, or settle old scores. A faint rumor of trouble, footprints seen in the dust, a broken fence, a dog barking too long, could unsettle an entire village. Did you ever fear that the things meant to keep you safe, locks, doors, communities, might not hold against someone determined? In these times, such worries were nightly companions. But beyond jackals and thieves lurked other dangers, those that defied logic or explanation. Every culture has its tales. Spirits gliding silently through the lane, whispered stories of lost souls searching for peace. Jinn taking shape beneath ancient banyan roots. On moonless nights, it was easy to believe that the smallest shadow might be more than an animal, and that some doorways stayed closed for reasons no one wished to speak. Soft as a sigh, a belief would pass from parent to child. Don't look outside at midnight. Never answer a whisper from beyond the fence. Small rituals, placing a broom by the door, scattering salt at the threshold, or leaving a lamp burning just a little longer, became shields against the things that hovered between belief and fear. Isn't it curious how the mind invents dangers when senses are dulled by darkness? Sometimes, the story is scarier than the wolf. The imagined shadow is more frightening than the one you can see. Inside small homes, silence bred its own anxieties. Adults watched over children. Elders recited prayers or repeated mantras to ward off nightmares. Even the bravest hearts quickened at the sound of an owl's screech or the unaccounted-for scraping across a rooftop. Have you ever shared your nighttime fears with someone else, only to find reassurance in their voice or a gentle laugh that melted the fear away? The act of naming a dread could lessen its power. And so, stories and memories were shared, quiet as candlelight, passed back and forth until the sting faded. In the Mughal night, fear was rarely solitary. Every villager, young and old, bold and quiet, was bound by the simple act of enduring until dawn. They knew what it meant to jump at an unexplained noise or to sit a little closer to the fire until courage returned. What was the scariest thing you imagined in the dark as a child? Write your memory in the comments, and let's share a gentle understanding together. Your stories connect us all, reminding us that even the fiercest imagination is soothed by sharing, and that none of us truly face the night alone. As air cools further and the fire dims, the rhythm of night hums on, drawing us seamlessly into the village's small comforts and the slow, careful rituals that guard each fragile hour. The next part of the story waits, just beyond another shadow, where hope and fear and memory blend into the quiet tapestry of night. In every humble home, there is a center, a quiet glow that beats softly against the uncertainties of the night. Have you ever found yourself pausing in front of a fire, tracing flames with your eyes, feeling that calm settle inside you like a silent promise? In Mughal villages, the hearth was nothing less than a guardian, protector against the darkness, comfort for restless hearts, and a gentle accomplice as the world around them faded into night. Listen for just a moment to the rhythm of the small fire. The crackle, the shifting of embers, the occasional hiss. All these sounds blend into a lullaby for a family whose world shrinks to a single room each evening. The heat is a narrow circle, precious and fleeting. Do you notice how the glow of a fire throws shadows on the walls, making the room feel alive with silent stories and memories? Someone stirs the coals with practiced hands, careful not to let the flame die too soon. The fire serves as kitchen, warmth, and lamp. Mothers finish preparing the last meal, stirring thin porridge or warming lentil stew, while children gather close, searching the shadows for comfort and quiet games. Household routines flow around the hearth. A father mends a cracked pitcher. A grandmother combs a child's hair. Siblings share the day's leftover laughter. Isn't it peaceful to watch people gently end their chores, hands moving slower, words growing softer as the hour grows late? With bellies content, if not exactly full, family stories begin, their tone matching the dance of firelight. There are tales of clever animals and mischievous spirits, of ancient heroes in the world outside, now softened by distance and memory. The fire's light makes faces flicker between joy and mystery. Can you remember a story that felt safest when told in the warmest corner, surrounded by people you loved? These stories are more than entertainment. They are shields, passed from one hand to the next, bracing every listener for the dreams and worries of night. Soon, the chores finish. Utensils clatter quietly in the wash basin. Spare food is packed away, and beds, just mats and rolled blankets, are spread around the fire's gently fading warmth. The youngest are tucked nearest the flames, adults circling them like sheltering trees. Someone yawns, a mother hums a lullaby, and the day's last chatter gives way to silence. Notice the way light shifts as logs dwindle, how the fire becomes a single glowing point in the darkness, its flicker both fragile and unwavering. Have you ever felt a sudden vulnerability in the quiet, when the fire drops low and every sound outside seems suddenly sharper. For this family, the hearth is both armor and opening. Cold presses against thin walls. Fear sometimes slips under the door. Yet, as the embers pulse, hope remains. The belief that inside, together, they are stronger than anything waiting beyond those earthen walls. The ritual is universal, repeated through centuries and countless households. The heartbeat of the heart links old and young, dreams and daylight, bringing the gift of rest to every weary soul. And as breaths slow and sleeping shapes curl closer, the fire's glow will linger in memory, carrying the family through whatever dreams or shadows the night may bring. Let the scene blur, warmth still clutched in your senses, as the story drifts naturally onward, following the hush and safety woven by the quiet firelight into the gentle realm of whispered stories and deeper night. As the glow of the hearth ebbs and shadows deepen across mud-plastered walls, a subtle transformation settles over the home. Have you ever felt how stories seem to grow in power at night? Their meanings richer, their sounds softer, the very air around you thick with possibility and comfort? Now is the time for whispered tales, voices low to match the hush that cloaks the sleeping world outside. Picture the family gathered near the waning fire, some sprawled on woven mats, others curled beneath thin shawls. The youngest child might nuzzle against a parent's shoulder, eyelids heavy but still wide with anticipation. A grandfather, voice gravelly and warm, begins the night's stories, his words blending with the music of crackling embers and distant night sounds. Do you remember listening to someone's voice in the dark? How each tale made you feel a little safer, a little closer, both to them and to the universe itself. The stories themselves are ancient and endlessly varied. Some nights, it might be the epic deeds of kings and warriors, the battles fought under storm-dark skies, great elephants rumbling across distant rivers, palaces lit with 1,000 lamps, and clever princesses who outwitted their foes with kindness or wit. In these tales, even peasants find glimmers of power, imagining possibility beyond the humble, flickering light of their home. Other nights are given to local legends, shrouded in superstition. Children learn of the ghosts that wander the mango groves after midnight, of the jinn rumored to haunt crossroads or ancient wells, of the snake that guards buried treasure, and the fox whose laughter means rain is coming. Have you ever believed, with secret thrill or fear, that something magical might really live just around the corner in the shadows where grown-ups seldom look? Each legend is a kind of shield, bracing the imagination against what can't be named or seen. Some nights, superstitions become gentle warnings disguised as tales. Don't whistle after dark, or spirits might follow you home. If a barn owl calls your name, do not answer. Always leave a little water at the hearth for thirsty wanderers from the other side. These rules, gently repeated, knit the community together. Each child, each elder, bound by common knowledge and shared defense against the unknown. The rhythm of the storyteller's voice is soothing, sometimes playful, sometimes grave, as the story asks for it. Can you feel yourself drifting, pulled gently along by the flow of words, comforted by the ritual as much as the tale itself? In these moments, the world outside grows a little less threatening. Fears shrink back, and each member of the family feels held in a circle of warmth and belonging. Through these stories, knowledge and hope are passed down. The lessons of ancestors, morals tucked between fantastical events, warnings woven into laughter and wonder. And as the night grows deeper, voices grow softer still, some fading to sleepy mumbles. The oldest tales are repeated as gentle mantras, carrying each listener toward rest. Do you remember the last time someone told you a story at bedtime? What did you hold on to? Was it a line, an image, or simply the feeling of being loved, protected, and known? As silence gathers, the tales remain, gentle guardians on the threshold of dreams, their presence woven into the uneasy comfort of the night. They prepare the family, softly and invisibly, for whatever real and imagined dangers may hover close, and gently guide the mind toward more restful places. And so, the house, wrapped in shared breath and fading whispers, drifts that much closer to sleep. While just outside, the living night continues its own story, ready to usher in the sounds and life that belong to darkness alone. Night deepens, and as stories and murmurs within the home finally taper into hush, the world outside grows vibrant with a different kind of conversation, one woven entirely from the voices of the land. Have you ever closed your eyes and listened, really listened, to all the sounds that only appear at night, as if the world itself is whispering a secret meant just for you? Picture yourself there, safely nestled on your mat, wrapped in a worn shawl, as the glow of the fire gives way to the blue shadows cast by the moon. The hush inside is mirrored by the gentle hush outside, until, from far across the fields, a solitary dog raises its voice in a plaintive howl. One dog becomes two, then three, a thread of calls stretching between distant houses and farmyards, echoing off the low mud walls. Do you ever wonder what dogs are saying to one another at night? Is it warning, greeting, longing, or simply sharing in the midnight stillness? Soon, the conversation expands. Frogs, nestled near the village well, or clustered along the swollen banks of irrigation channels, croak in slow, musical bursts. Their voices rise and fall like a lullaby, thick with water and memory. Have you ever heard the croak of a frog echo into the darkness? It can feel both eerie and peaceful, a grounding reminder of life just beyond the lantern's glow. Just beneath these deeper sounds, another music emerges, the quiet chorus of insects. Crickets sing with practiced steadiness, a hypnotic trill that fills every gap in the silence. If you listen closely, you might also catch the faint rasp of beetles, the errant buzz of a solitary moth, or the far distant pulse of cicadas. The night's air buzzes gently, a shroud of constant sound so soft that you notice it only when you focus, only when you slow your breathing and truly attend. Can you feel your heartbeat syncing with the steady, endless rhythm of crickets and cicadas? Your thoughts growing softer, stealing away as the sound swells and ebbs outside your window. Sometimes, the nighttime is interrupted by a rustle in the brush, the cautious step of a stray ox, the sudden flapping of a roosting bird's wings, or the tiny paw steps of a mongoose hunting in the grass. Creatures for whom day is dangerous emerge as silent witnesses or brief streaks in the moonlight. Is there an animal whose secret life at night you've always wished to glimpse, even a brief shadow against the fields, a flicker at the edge of your sight? The wind, too, plays its part, brushing through swaying stalks and tangled tree branches. Some nights, it's a playful sigh, shaking loose puffs of dust or ruffling thatch in little bursts. Other nights, it's a sturdy presence, moaning through cracks, making doors rattle and lamp flames flicker. Its cool touch brings the smell of water, temple incense, or ripe fruit hanging somewhere just beyond reach. Through it all, the soundtrack of night is never truly silent or still. It is layered, textured, speaking in voices both old and new. If you were listening now, you might hear the low boom of a nightbird calling through distant groves, the slap of bare feet, briefly heard as a villager makes a last trip outside, the drip of water collecting in a clay pot, counting out time while the world sleeps. Do you have a favorite nighttime sound? Perhaps it's rain pattering against the window, the rhythmic sway of branches, or the steady hum of someone you love breathing beside you. Share your favorite, if you wish. Sometimes, the world feels a little safer when we notice the beauty in the simplest background music. As night's chorus serenades the village, let the symphony draw you deeper. The soundtrack beneath the stars carries every sleeper close to rest, weaving their dreams together with the breath and pulse of the land itself. And seamlessly, while the melodies of crickets and distant howls linger, we move forward into the next tapestry of nocturnal life, where the quiet struggles and intimate hopes of peasants reveal themselves most vulnerably in the hush between each note. As midnight settles and the warmth of the fire fades, a different kind of quiet falls over the peasant homes of Mughal India, a quiet shaped by longing, patience, and the ache of empty bellies. Have you ever tried to fall asleep on an empty stomach, feeling the restlessness inside as your mind and body search for comfort? For many villagers, hunger was not just a rare visitor. It was a familiar companion, its presence sharpest when the world was still and distractions had faded away. During the day, labor and sunlight provided gentle distractions from want. But at night, as stories finished and laughter wound down to a sigh, the mind and body grew more aware of what was missing. The meager evening meal, a scrap of roti, thin gruel, the last spoonfuls of lentils, sometimes did little more than take the edge from hunger. Have you noticed how the absence of food seems to echo in your stomach at night, growing louder with every tick of sleepless time? For children, the pang was softened by closeness. Siblings bundled together, the hush of a mother's lullaby serving as a fragile shield. For adults, there were practical worries. Questions of how long the grain stores might last, whether rains or taxes might relieve or tighten tomorrow's hardship, and what small, hidden treat might be stretched across a family's need. The senses sharpen at night. Even the faint aroma of what was cooked earlier seems to linger on the air, a ghostly comfort. Can you remember a time when a certain smell, perhaps cumin or rice in the breeze, sweet milk on a stove, brought memories of feast days or childhood warmth? The tiniest memory becomes a salve, a story in itself, soothing aches that won't quite go away. Nighttime hunger also carried a gentle humility. Neighbors might trade a handful of rice or a precious onion, or quietly tuck away any bit of dried fruit just for a special occasion. There was gratitude in every morsel, and hope in the rituals families created. A cup of water passed gently, prayers whispered for brighter days, a story told to make time pass until sleep arrived. Did you ever create little bedtime routines? A sip of warm milk, a piece of bread, to help soften a lean night? Yet, even amid scarcity, kindness endured. On cold nights, a mother might save her best morsel for the youngest child. Friends might share an unexpected treat if fortune allowed. These sacrifices and small generosities became as sustaining as food itself, a reminder that even in hardship, care can bridge what hunger divides. What's your go-to comfort food when you can't sleep? Share in the comments. Your favorites might inspire someone's next cozy evening. Is it a bowl of warm soup, a piece of chocolate, a slice of toast, or perhaps just the promise of something sweet in the morning? The act of thinking about these comforts brings warmth of its own, a small pleasure worth holding close. Sometimes, the ache of hunger would fade into dreams. For those who managed to drift into sleep, their minds wandered into visions of feasts, of mangoes ripening in the sun, fragrant biryanis, steaming cups of sweet chai, rare oranges or mounds of soft white rice. Those dreams could be both a comfort and a quiet torment, reminders of what the world could offer and what it sometimes withheld. As the night deepens, so does resolve. In the hush, parents promise silently to do better, to stretch tomorrow's meal a little farther, and to take care, no matter how thin the stores. to keep the household's hope alive. The rhythm of hunger, patient and insistent, becomes something woven into every heartbeat, every prayer. Even when food is simple or scarce, it's the kindness that surrounds our meals which truly fills us, isn't it? Perhaps tonight, just thinking of a favorite comfort is enough to bring a sense of peace. And so, as dreams gently wrap their arms around those waiting for dawn, hunger and hope rest side by side, a reminder that even in the dark, warmth can be found in small acts, shared stories, and the promise of another day. And naturally, as the world continues to turn, the story carries us onward, toward beds and blankets, where families search for rest and a soft breath of relief in sleep's gentle embrace. As the hour grows late and night presses deepest against the walls, the household turns finally toward rest. Can you imagine lying down to sleep, not on a soft mattress, but on a bed made of ropes, straw, and pieces of patched cloth? In Mughal India, where comfort was often harder to come by than a meal, a family's bed was a place of both necessity and subtle resilience, a lesson in making refuge out of what was available and togetherness out of hardship. Picture the nightly ritual: mats unrolled and beds constructed anew each evening. The charpé, a woven bedstead strung with thick ropes, creaks softly as an elder eases themselves into place. The ropes, stretched and knotted hundreds of times over the years, dip and sway under shifting bodies, promising support but never quite the true ease of sleep. Children tuck themselves close on simple mats of straw layered beside their parents, the roughness felt through light fabric, every movement rustling in the hush. Have you ever lain awake, aware of every tiny lump beneath you, every ridge and hollow that shapes the mattress to the landscape of your family's life? The humble beds in these homes tell stories of careful repairs, patches sewn lovingly over holes, straw replaced after a season of wear, and old shawls pressed into service as extra padding on bitterly cold nights. When the wind howls or rain seeps through thatch, families huddle tighter, sharing blankets, their bodies trading warmth in the silent pact of survival. The beds are never truly private. Parents sleep at the center, children curled protectively around them, sometimes arms and legs woven together in the dark until it's impossible to know whose sigh or heartbeat stirs the quiet air. Is there comfort for you in feeling another's breath, in sharing a little space, even if it's crowded? Here, closeness is both a gift and a challenge. Warmth is shared, but so too are late-night whispers, small discomforts, and the restlessness that comes when the bed shifts beneath each sleeper's weight. Listeners might imagine the sensory world of such sleep: the scratch of straw against a bare ankle, the faint ache of a rope beneath a shoulder blade. Above all, there is an unevenness, the push and pull as bodies settle in and the night wears on, the heat rising and fading as the air grows coldest just before dawn. Have you ever felt the air in a room change as the night deepens? The slow, gentle cooling that nudges you to pull the covering higher or draw your family closer? For many, these cues guide sleep far more than a clock. Sleep itself is often light, interrupted by dreams, distant noises, or the sounds of movement from a restless sibling. Elders, ever cautious, wake easily to unfamiliar sounds. An animal shifting near the door, a branch tapping the window, or simply the ache of age catching up with old bones. Children, soothed by their parents' nearness, slip more easily into dreams, calmed by the gentle harmony of shared breath. Occasionally, the family's pets, dogs, goats, even a watchful cat, might curl close to add their own warmth and gentle presence. Their small bodies, at the feet or flanks of sleeping children, bring both comfort and a sense of safety, deepening the feeling of a living, breathing household. Have you ever found sleep more restful? Not because of a perfect bed, but because you felt secure, surrounded by those you love. In these humble homes, the quality of rest was rarely measured by softness alone, but by the closeness of heart and body, and the rituals that shaped night after night into a fabric of connection. As midnight turns and darkness softens toward morning, the family's collective dreaming weaves a fragile unity. The humble beds, though patched and uneven, provide a kind of peace, one born of endurance, adaptability, and the deep, irreplaceable comfort of belonging. With the first faint hints of light at the window and the slow stirring of the house, the beds are gathered up, the mats rolled, and every sign of the night's communal rest disappears until dusk gathers once more. And just as sleep gives way to waking, so too does the next part of our story arise, carrying us on toward new challenges, new rituals, and the shared hope carried within every home at the dawning of each new day. Even as the village begins to settle, not everyone drifts into sleep. In humble homes and scattered fields, some shoulders bear the ancient, silent duty of night watch, a task taken not for honor or glory, but for love and necessity. Have you ever found yourself awake while others rest, feeling the weight of keeping your world safe, even as the night presses close and silent all around? For peasants in Mughal India, the dark was never truly empty, and vigilance was woven into every hour before dawn. First, there is the careful tending of coals in the hearth. One adult sits near the dying fire, slow breath stirring the embers' faint glow. With practiced hands, they adjust the ash and nudge the last scraps of wood, careful not to let the precious warmth slip away before morning. Can you feel the quiet satisfaction of watching a coal's glow deepen, knowing your family will wake to warmth and not chill? Each tiny flame becomes a comfort, a silent promise to those sleeping close by. But the night's work stretches beyond fire. Listen, and you can almost hear the soft scuff of bare feet moving across packed earth as someone checks doors, windows, and the thin seams of thatch for cracks or open spaces. Attention sharpens. Eyes grow used to the shapes of familiar shadows and the subtle stutter of moonlight on the wall. Have you ever learned the language of nighttime noises? The sigh of wind, the scurry of a mouse, the distant calls of dogs or beasts outside, each one a note in the dark secret song. Some nights, the duty extends outdoors. If the air is dry and wind is restless, fire poses a threat as much as a comfort. The watchful quietly tested doors, scan roof lines, and check the direction of smoke, each careful step a shield against disaster. Can you imagine walking beyond the circle of the lamp, inside the vast breadth of darkness, holding tight to a torch that flickers in your grasp? Your vision narrows to the glow at your feet, every familiar path made strange and mysterious by the shadows. To safeguard the livestock and crops, small torchlit patrols move slowly along the edges of fields, lanterns bobbing softly like distant fireflies. The watchers work together, or alone, depending on need and trust, pausing often to listen for distant rustles, a jackal, a thief, or simply the low moan of the wind weaving through the grain. What does it feel like to be both alone and not alone, bonded to the hush of the world and the hope that nothing stirs in the dark? In these moments, the mind fills with modest wishes. Let the animals sleep easy. Let the crops stand whole. Let the gates stay shut and the fire burn safely. Night's work is patient work. Every slow circuit, every gentle check carries the hope that this shift will pass without alarm, without the sudden rush of footsteps or flare of fear. Yet there's beauty in the duty, the cool air on your skin, scented with dew and smoke, the glitter of distant stars beyond the outline of palm and neem trees. Even the moment when a patrolling neighbor's torch swoops into sight and you share a silent nod. the universal language of guardians everywhere. Have you ever felt that silent camaraderie, the quiet pride in a job seen only by moonlight and memory? Inside, those left sleeping trust in this watchfulness. Children shift. A mother sighs in her slumber, and the house seems to breathe in time with the steady pace of the one awake. The small, fragile confidence that nothing will go wrong, rooted in the care of these unseen watchers, allows rest for the many. The sleeping home is a world held together by intention, by the promise that someone will always keep the fire, always listen, always be ready. And so, through slow hours, the watch continues. The field shadows grow and shrink as the moon tilts its way toward morning. And when finally the first pale light shows across horizon, and the sounds of waking return, a rooster's crow, the gentle lifting of limbs, a pot set to boil, the watcher returns inside, carrying relief and the satisfaction of having, at least for one more night, kept the world safe and sound. Allow the rhythm of this watchfulness to settle over you. The quiet sense of duty, the blend of anxiety and hope, and the gentle satisfaction as the guard relinquishes the dark to the soft arrival of morning. Just as the torch is set aside, so do we move, quietly, seamlessly, into the next phase of night, where the invisible perils of illness and worry sometimes arrive, even as the horizon glimmers with the promise of another day. Even in the gentle calm of a village night, a thread of anxiety always wound through humble homes. The knowledge that another kind of shadow might slip through the cracks. Illness. Have you ever lain awake, listening to the peaceful breathing of loved ones, and suddenly felt a twinge of worry? The thought that what you can't see or hear might be the thing that brings the most trouble. In Mughal India, the unseen perils of fever, sickness, and unknown maladies were constant, lurking companions, especially after dark. Just as darkness thickened, so too did the dangers it disguised. With the sun gone, the air itself seemed to shift. Stagnant water near rice fields or irrigation ditches bred swarms of mosquitoes, the quiet carriers of malaria and other mysterious fevers. A single bite was a silent threat. The chills and flush of fever that followed might begin in the coolest part of night, as sweat beaded on worried brows and blankets became both shield and shackle. But malaria was only one risk among many. Night air, believed by some to carry bad humors, made villagers extra cautious after dusk, closing windows and covering mouths with cloths. Children, elders, and the frail often suffered the most, shuddering with chills or burning suddenly with mysterious heat. Have you ever felt a feverish shiver in the middle of the night, when all you want is to reach for comfort, but worry takes its place instead? Hope did not hide from the dark. Instead, it took on many forms, familiar and sacred, practical and sometimes superstitious. Families lit small lamps near the sick, believing gentle light would reassure frightened souls and dispel restless spirits. Prayers and chants, recited softly by mothers or led by elders, became lullabies, their words woven into the very air. Do you remember being soothed by a murmured prayer, a promise of healing offered in the middle of the night? Remedies, too, were summoned from memory, garden, and tradition. Villagers brewed bitter decoctions of neem leaves, rubbed mustard oil on aching chests, and folded camphor-laced cloths beneath pillows. Whenever a fever clung for days, hope focused on these small rituals: sips of cool water, bits of bread, soothing rubs, and whispered encouragements. Even so, the fear remained. Some maladies had no obvious cure, and loss was woven through many long nights. Sickness was not faced alone. If illness visited one home, neighbors and kin rallied, offering food, fetching fresh water, asking after the sick with gentle persistence. Small gestures, a cup of sweetened milk, a spare blanket, prayers left at the household shrine, became tokens of solidarity. Healers passed herbs and advice, sometimes urging the family to burn incense or sprinkle certain powders, hoping to purify the air and ward off unseen evil. Have you carried hope for someone else in their illness? Staying up late, watching for the smallest sign of comfort, offering your own strength through small acts? This communal faith, as steady as it was modest, allowed families to endure, to wait together through fever's longest hours. Of course, some dangers could not be named or explained. Nightmares struck. Children whimpered in their sleep, tormented by hallucinations of fever or tales of wandering spirits. When the moon was hidden and the air felt thick, anxiety hummed even in the hearts of the bravest. Sometimes, grief visited quietly, a life lost in the darkness, commemorated by wails muffled against the cool earth. Still, with every loss, the rituals of hope endured. Walls were daubed with protective marks. Sacred water was sprinkled across faces, new prayers learned and shared. Grief and healing traveled side by side, walking gently behind every sunrise. Have you known the relief that dawn brings after a night of worry? The moment the sun's first rays chase away your shadows, and with them, the fever breaks, or the worst has passed. In these homes, every return to health was quietly celebrated. Gratitude mixed with caution. Lessons learned in the dark shape new habits and greater vigilance. As you listen, try to sense the blend of humility and hope that filled such nights. Illness and fear crept through the hours after sunset, but alongside them walked perseverance, love, and the steady hand of tradition. These companions, prayer, remedy, and community, still linger in the rituals we reach for today, guiding us gently through our own long nights and into the promise of day. And as the village wakes, soft voices and the glow of relief carry families forward, inviting us to join them in the art of resilience, one quiet morning at a time. Night unfolds above the village in its vast unhurried arc, the soft lid of a jewel-toned sky scattered with blinking stars. Have you ever slipped outside on a quiet night, let the darkness wrap around you, and lifted your eyes just to feel smaller beneath the endlessness of the stars? In Mughal India, the night sky carried meaning far beyond beauty. It was a living calendar, a map for guidance, and a silent oracle through which villagers sought reassurance, warnings, and hope. The moon, changing from new to full and back again, marked the rhythm of rural life. Its phases determined the timing of crop planting, religious fasts, and even nightly chores. When the moon hung low and golden in the sky, elders might murmur that it was an auspicious night, that blessings could be called upon their household, or that negativity could be swept away with the right prayer, the right word whispered under its glow. Have you ever wondered how it would feel to rely on the sky to tell you when to begin something important, or when to hold back just a little longer? For these villagers, guidance was written in phases. A crescent moon meant beginnings. Fullness inspired celebrations or sacred fasts. And a dark moon warned of trouble and encouraged caution when venturing outside. The positions of certain stars and constellations were believed to predict the weather or guide travelers. Farmers searched for Orion's belt or the Pleiades at midnight, knowing that the clarity or brightness of certain stars might forecast rain or a coming dry spell. Can you imagine gathering your family together, eyes straining skyward, hoping to read a message from the heavens about the season ahead? Each home sheltered small, personal rituals. Some villagers hung bells or beads beneath open eaves to whisper their hopes skyward. Others traced sacred geometric shapes in ash or flower near their doorways, aligning them with the direction of a rising moon or the pattern of the stars. Children would listen to tales spun just for nights like these, stories of star-crossed lovers, brave warriors, or celestial animals, each story blurring myth and memory, comfort and awe. When festivals approached, the anticipation grew more electric beneath a clear night. Diwali, with its promise of light, seemed to reflect the starlit canopy as tiny clay lamps mirrored their brilliance. During holy fasts or special lunar eclipses, villagers gathered together in prayer or silence, feeling the mystery and gravity of a night alive with astrology, belief, and possibility. Is there a night sky memory that comforts you? Tell us about a favorite star or constellation you love to spot. Perhaps for you, it's the steady light of the North Star, or the moment you finally trace the curve of the Dipper among the dark. For those centuries ago, it was the recognition of familiar stars that soothed. The way Orion's belt looked the same year after year, the slow rise of Venus on warm summer nights, or the playful chase of the Dog Star low on the horizon. On difficult nights, villagers shared quiet confidence in the sky's permanence. No matter the worries that haunted the dark, one only needed to step beyond the reach of the lamp or stand in a moonlit courtyard to remember that above all, the cosmos remained, a silent witness across time and hardship, offering gentle perspective and a sense that eventually all things would return to their cycle. Let yourself imagine the cool air on your face, the scent of night-blooming flowers, the distant call of a mourning dove, and the feel of earth beneath your feet as you gaze upward. What is it about the night sky that speaks to you most? The quiet glitter, the patient arc of the moon, the reminder that you belong to something both ancient and vast. If you're listening now, perhaps close your eyes for a moment and recall your own memory. A peaceful stargazing night, a wish made on a shooting star, or simply the comfort of feeling watched over by the same stars your ancestors must have known. If you'd like, share your memory or favorite constellation in the comments. You may find you're not alone in your wonder. As villagers, centuries ago, would finish a final glance skyward before returning indoors, so too can we gently transition, carrying with us the solace, wisdom, and soft reassurance that the watchful sky continues to offer, now, as ever, a quiet guide through whatever darkness may come. Most nights, the village sleeps, homes secured, streets empty, shadows undisturbed. But every so often, the night stirs. Someone slips quietly across the threshold, scarf pulled tight, sandals muffling footsteps on the dirt lane. Have you ever crept outside after dark, each step a secret shared with only the stars above? In Mughal India, journeys by night were rare, but unforgettable, a tapestry of risk, ritual, and wonder unfolding beneath a sky alive with silver light. Moonlit journeys might begin quietly, but always carried an undercurrent of excitement. Sometimes a midwife is summoned for a birth, her silhouette gliding along the field edges, lanterns swaying at her side. Other nights, a family rushes for help in illness, or for news from a neighboring village. No time to wait for the luxury of daylight. And then, on the most special nights, a wedding procession or festival caravan would shimmer into view. Strings of bells, masked dancers, the gleam of colored cloth, laughter barely suppressed. Can you imagine what it's like to move through your own transformed world? Trees looming taller, streams glittering unfamiliar, scents of wet grass or distant incense sharper in the night air. Every familiar landmark feels new. A temple spire is ghostly and grand. The banyan at the crossroads becomes a looming guardian, and the usually rutted paths seem softer, dust glowing pale in the moonlight. The night is sharper when you walk through it with purpose. Dogs bark at the edge of sight, curious but never fierce. Cicadas thrum. The metallic jingle of jewelry, the hushed exchange of urgent words. They all seem louder, wrapped by the silent stretch between villages. Sometimes you can hear the river's low song or the call of a distant owl. Lamps sway in careful hands, their flames little islands against the darkness. For children allowed, forbidden even, but drawn by curiosity, such adventures become legend. Do you remember a night outside with your family? Every shadow full of secret meaning, every sound a private thrill. For some, it's a memory of sneak desserts at a cousin's wedding, or a last look back at the home left behind for a new life in marriage. Not all journeys were solemn. Sometimes, when the moon was right, villagers gathered in secret for festivals banned or frowned upon by rulers or neighbors. There might be hidden shrines deep in the woods, where drums and low singing blended into the night's chorus, or small gatherings for clandestine prayers or dances, moments when music, shared danger, and hope lived hand in hand. Candles flickered among wildflowers, and songs were sung low, barely more than a breath. Have you ever shared a secret celebration? Something precious because it was hidden? The thrill, the laughter muffled behind hands, the sense of belonging to a shared mystery? These were nights to remember for a lifetime, whispered of with joy and awe whenever the outside world felt too hard. Yet, night journeys were never free from risk. Animals hunted at night. So too did thieves, and spirits rumored to haunt sacred crossroads. But for those who walked beneath the Milky Way, bowed by necessity or lifted by celebration, there was a sense of stepping outside daily life and into the stream of something larger. Isn't there poetry wandering by moonlight? The feeling of letting go, of moving guided only by silver above and your own careful footsteps below? Even returning home, some would pause, eyes wide to the stars, hearts carrying both the worry and wonder of what the night had brought. For every villager, a night journey became a story told again and again, sometimes for wisdom, sometimes for laughter, often for awe. If you were part of a secret meeting or a midnight procession, would you tell the tale or keep it wrapped carefully as a memory for yourself alone? These rare crossings, these shared adventures, bound the village together, a reminder that not all magic or meaning comes with the sun. As the first rooster calls and the east glows gently with a promise of a new day, many return home, weary but changed, grateful for the home's safety, yet clutching the wonder of a night spent under a limitless sky. Let that gentle thrill linger as we move forward in our story, quietly stepping from moonlit journeys and whispered secrets back into the rhythms and rituals of darkness, where the shapes of belonging, risk, and hope are drawn more closely, gently awaiting the morning light. As night falls across the fields and winding lanes of Mughal India, its soft shadows do not fall evenly. Have you ever sensed that the world changes not just with the coming of night, but with the quiet, invisible rules that linger after sundown? For villagers of the time, dusk was a boundary not only between day and darkness, but also between those who moved with freedom and those who waited for dawn with caution. In this world, the caste system shaped not just identities, but possibilities. Sunset deepened distinctions. High caste families might draw their courtyards closed, lanterns lifting in delicate glass or shining through polished wood. They trusted in their walls, their status, and often in the watchful eyes of loyal retainers. These households, quiet but confident, operated by a different rhythm, one that allowed for late prayers, lingering tales, and the safety to walk outside, if only into their own gardens or adjacent lanes. Can you imagine the sense of ease, knowing the world outside sees and protects you? For many, this comfort was as much a birthright as a consequence of circumstance. But for the majority, and especially the lower castes, night's approach was a signal to stay close. Mobility was not merely discouraged, it was often forbidden. Custom and law set curfews, enforced by local landholders or guards. After dark, a villager's movement was closely watched. For the poor and lower caste, even the simple act of fetching water or checking distant fields after sunset might draw suspicion or invite risk. Have you ever felt the need to rush home before nightfall? Not because of fear of the dark itself, but because of unspoken rules? Imagine being told, softly but firmly, that your presence was less welcome in certain parts of the village after dusk. Your footsteps unwelcome in lanes that you might have walked freely under the sun. The dangers were real. Villagers of lower status faced suspicion and rebuke if they strayed from expected places, and the loss of protection by the community made them more vulnerable to thieves, wandering animals, or the whims of those with power. Sometimes the greatest fear was not what moved in the night, but the possibility of being seen out of place, out of time, marked by custom as other. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to be home, but never quite at home in the eyes of those around you? For many peasants, the night pressed close, not just because of its shadows, but because of the walls built by centuries of belief. Some were allowed to keep a lantern burning, others were not. Some could call for help, others only whispered behind closed doors. Yet these boundaries also shaped acts of quiet resistance and solidarity. Within their own quarters, lower caste families gathered by the smallest glows, sharing stories, support, and small joys. Night made private space sacred, a place to nurture pride, pass on wisdom, and teach children to move with care. Sometimes, in the hush of midnight, invisible alliances formed, secret errands run, warnings passed, quiet acts of mercy exchanging hands across caste lines. What would it mean to you to find sanctuary among friends or family, even as the world beyond kept you at arm's length? There was resilience in these gatherings, the determination to make a life's meaning from what could not be taken away, dignity, hope, and a sense of belonging forged by hardship. Picture this, as the rest of the village falls silent, a soft lamp in a far corner, the quiet murmur of a lullaby, the scent of simple supper hovering above the beds. Every gesture, every word is shaped by necessity and longing, but also by love and the dream of freedom. Do you ever think about the boundaries within your own life, where you feel welcome, where you feel watched, and how much those lines shape our choices? The night in Mughal India gently carried these questions forward, letting them linger in hearts and homes, passed down with each new story and each rising dawn. As sleep settles over the village, high walls and low eaves both cradle their families against the night's uncertainties. The differences are real and lasting, but the shared desire for safety, comfort, and hope unites all beneath the same sky. Let these reflections tie the story together as we move quietly, seamlessly, into those moments where kindness and courage illuminate even the most divided nights. As moonlight filters down onto the winding paths and scattered homes of a Mughal Indian village, one truth colors everything. The darkness falls, but it never falls equally. Have you ever felt, as night wraps softly around your life, that not every lamp burns with the same promise, and not every footstep echoes with the same safety? The invisible boundaries of caste, so carefully drawn by day, seem to loom even larger in the hush of night. For those born into privilege, night is a time of gentle retreat. Wealthier families, landowners, high caste merchants, or elite scribes retire behind thick walls and broad courtyards, doors secured, and servants lingering nearby. Their lanterns shine with steady light, windows open to the breezes, and laughter drifts softly through scented gardens. Can you picture the comfort of knowing you may wander your home's corners by night, all danger left beyond strong gates? For these few, the darkness is nothing more than a fragrant blanket, rich with the promise of rest. But for those whose names and work set them apart, dusk brings caution. People of lower castes, day laborers, and the poorest peasants live close to the fields and the uncertainty that melts with the setting of the sun. Their dwellings cluster at the edge of the village, walls thin, doors ajar, and firelight flickering with uncertainty. For them, movement after nightfall is fraught with risk, social, physical, and sometimes spiritual. After sunset, village laws create curfews, often informal but deeply felt. The sound of a gong or the call of a crier might signal the moment after which streets and wells are no longer safe or permitted for certain hands and feet. Watchmen patrol, not only scanning for wolves or thieves, but for the out-of-place presence of those whose social standing makes the night harder still. Have you ever walked quickly home, heart in your throat, not for what creeps or cries in the fields, but for the feeling that you don't belong in the dark? Every step after curfew deepens the sense of separation. Lower caste families gather closely, keeping to their own lanes. Nighttime chores, fetching water, checking a cow, running an errand, are risky if not outright forbidden. Hands pull curtains tight, voices drop lower, and children are warned to remain close, for the world beyond these boundaries rewards caution and punishes those who forget their place. Still, the very limits set by custom and community fuel dramatic moments of solidarity. Kindness is not unknown. There are secret deliveries of grain, a whispered warning, a light left glowing for a neighbor crossing home late. Have you ever given or received a kindness that defied a rule, a gentle act that made the night a little less lonely? Within their own walls, these families create refuge, reciting stories of ancestors who persevered, sharing dreams of mornings where boundaries fade. The dark, for all its restrictions, becomes a hidden world. Rituals celebrated in low voices, songs carried down alleys, prayers whispered for strength. Here, the nightly patchwork of survival weaves pride and endurance as surely as any daytime work. Children learn to read the signals of the dark, to discern warning from invitation, to stay together and cherish safety where they find it. Yet, these boundaries cost dearly. A sick child might wait longer for help. An invitation to joy, a wedding, a festival, a special meal, might not arrive at all. For lower caste villagers, the risk of accusation, of suspicion, of being found where you shouldn't be, runs as deep as any fear of wild animals or bandits. The night is lit unevenly, threads of opportunity pooled in courtyards far from their own. Have you ever thought about what it would mean to move only as far as you are allowed, never as far as you hope? The moon might shine for all, but the shadows it casts are not the same. Imagine, then, the village just before sleep. High walls glowing with confident light, distant doorways hushed, every home holding close to its own rules and hopes. In these last moments, before all voices fade, the truth of the night's divide lingers more gently. Do you ever wonder what the world would feel like if every lamp could burn as brightly, if every path were as welcoming, if every story found space to be told in the quiet hour before dreams? And as the lamps are dimmed and curfews keep hearts and bodies close, night passes on. The wound of caste not healed, but softened, at least for an hour, by small rebellions of care and memory. The world will wake again, and with the sunrise, those invisible lines will lose some of their power. But tonight, the song continues, a reminder that the dark shapes us as much as the day, and that within the hush, every hope, every kindness, every longing matters. As night pulls us toward the next turning, let us carry forward a gentler vision, one where walls may thin and lamps someday may be lit for all. Night, for all its uncertainty, is also the soft canvas onto which the quietest acts of kindness are painted. Have you ever felt a gentle knock at your door when you least expected it? A light in someone's eyes, or a helping hand offered with no strings that made the darkness seem far less lonely? In Mughal India, especially among those living with thin walls and humble means, such gestures often pierce through the boundaries of caste, distance, and fear, reaffirming the lifeblood of village existence, the strength of community. As darkness deepened and meager supplies were stretched thinner, there were nights when a neighbor, sensing hardship, would set aside pride and offer what little they could. Sometimes it was a bowl of steaming lentils, fragrant rice, or a shard of bread left quietly near a neighbor's door. Can you taste the simple comfort in food, shared not out of abundance, but compassion? Such gifts nourish more than the body. They warm the soul and remind us that, even on bleak evenings, someone is close by and thinking of us. During illness, when a cough lingered or fever stole rest, the first sign of relief was often a neighbor's footfall. A woman might arrive with a cloth-wrapped parcel, herbal tea, dried fruit, a touch of spice for healing. Others brought news, prayers, or simply company, sitting in silence when words offered little. Sometimes, the best cure is to know you are not alone, isn't it? On especially cold or stormy nights, hospitality became a ritual of hope. A neighbor might invite a struggling family to share their fire or crowd children closer around a single glowing hearth, forming a circle that held worry at its edges. Blankets and stories were exchanged, warmth multiplied, not by wealth, but by presence. Have you ever shared warmth with someone, not just from a fire, but the warmth from a kind gesture, an encouraging word, a comforting presence? These small acts might blur in memory, but their afterglow lingers, illuminating the darkest stretches of night. Of course, the truest measure of community is found in moments of crisis, a sudden illness, lost livestock, or the shock of bandits or storms. Then, neighbors mobilize softly, quietly. Someone would go to fetch water, another to stand watch, still others to mend fences or soothe frightened children. For a time, the village became a family. Roles forgotten, hands joined, burdens shared, until the worst passed and dawn brought relief. Does a memory emerge for you? A moment when someone unexpectedly offered a helping hand and changed everything? Sometimes these moments pass unspoken, stitched into daily routine. But other times, they are celebrated, anchoring stories for generations to come. As the hush thickened beyond the circle of lamplight, villagers rested in the knowledge that they did not face the night alone. Every act of compassion, however small, a blanket on a neighbor's step, a whispered word through a crack in the wall, wove a safety net, invisible but enduring. These gestures, repeated over seasons and years, built an unspoken code of trust. Tonight, I help you. Tomorrow, you may help me. When did a neighbor's kindness brighten your darkest moment? Share your story below. You never know who needs that warmth tonight. Perhaps it's a meal brought unexpectedly, a door held open, or the simple act of listening nearby in the quiet hours. Your memory might offer warmth and inspiration to someone else journeying through their own long evening. In the gentle silence between one small act and the next, the village breathes together. Kindness, passed hand to hand, suspends worry and marks a new passage through the night. As our story drifts onward, so too does the ripple of compassion. becoming background music in every home, a torch against the darkest hours, and the gentle current that carries all hearts toward morning. Let that spirit accompany us now, guiding our way deeper into the rituals, comforts, and quiet hopes that pulse through these midnight hours. The arrival of the monsoon transforms everything, especially at night. Have you ever listened, really listened, to the voice of rain when it arrives in waves, pattering first on leaves, then growing to a steady drumbeat on your roof? In Mughal India, monsoon nights were moments of awe and anxiety, their intensity woven into every memory, every story retold as thunder rolled across the sky. Picture the village enveloped by darkness. Then, sudden sheets of rain sweep in, rattling down from clouds piled thick as mountains above. Each drop is heavy, urgent, a wild percussion that pounds against mud brick walls, soaks the thatch, and turns packed earth lanes into glistening ribbons. Can you feel the way the storm fills the air, every window and door swelling with the rush and roar outside? All at once, air turns cool and electric, humid with the mixed scents of earth, water, and green tang. Inside the homes, the world shrinks to a single glowing lamp and the shared circle around it. The wind flaps loose patches of fabric on windows, threads chilly air through cracks, and shakes the doors in their frames. You might hear the low rumble of thunder, a sound that seems to echo forever between distant hills, or the sudden flash of lightning that briefly illuminates every room. Families gather tightly in these moments. Mats are pulled further from leaky walls. Youngest children pressed inward between parents and siblings. Have you ever huddled with others for warmth or comfort? The world outside wild and untamed, while inside every voice lowers to a gentle hush, every breath shared in silent hope. Sometimes, a storm brings laughter at the unexpected trickle of water finding its way inside. Sometimes it brings prayers, offered in quiet voices, that the roof will hold another night. Stories are exchanged, some of past storms, of roofs lost and found, or of the lucky times when the rain brought long-awaited relief to the fields. Can you imagine the comfort of knowing you are not alone, that those around you share both the fear and the marvel of the monsoon song? The rhythm of water on earth is so constant, so enveloping, that it can lull even anxious hearts toward sleep. Let yourself become aware. The smell of rain, alive and clean, earthy and a little sharp. The gentle brush of cool air prickling your skin each time the wind sneaks in, or the feeling of damp where the thatch surrenders to the deluge. The soft lamps flicker, their glow steadied by patient hands, and shadows dance across walls pocked by years of wind and water. If you're listening now, imagine a background of soft rain, the tap, tap, tap on leaves, and the distant roll of thunder, a lullaby that both stirs and soothes. Some nights the storm wakes the family with a crash, but most of the time, its music is steady, endless, a river moving all the way through sleep. For all its risk and disruption, the monsoon is a blessing. Its waters fill ponds, revive crops, and offer promise after the long, dry months. The stories told tonight of past storms, near disasters, miracle survivals, shape the stories told the next season, carrying lessons of preparedness and gratitude. Do you have a favorite memory of rain? Whether it's from childhood or recently, did you watch, listen, or dash out to feel the drops on your skin? For villagers, these rains are never just water. They are stories waiting to be remembered, fears waiting to become hope. In time, the wildest winds calm. The rain droops to a trickle, and every family nestles deeper beneath their covers. The stillness that follows is thick with relief, mingled with the anticipation of dawn and the cleansing, glistening world it brings. As the night's music softens, hearts are quiet as well. The storm's memories join the flow of night, urging us forward, deeper into the soul of the home, where rituals of faith and hope are kindled, and where every storm, weathered together, becomes another thread in the fabric of family and community. Let us drift with the gentle retreat of the rain, settling into that sacred silence that follows, where only whispers, dreams, and the steady beat of hope remain. On nights when the wind rattles shutters and shadows crowd closer to thin walls, faith finds its quietest, deepest form. Have you ever paused in the darkness to send out a wish or prayer, asking for comfort, protection, or just one more peaceful night? In Mughal India, as the day's final embers faded, homes and hearts turned to rituals of hope, seeking refuge in gentle words, sacred spaces, and the promise of dawn. As twilight surrenders to darkness, a hush falls over the village. Lamps flicker in niches or at tiny home altars, their halos golden against the gathering gloom. In one house, a mother folds her hands, closing her eyes as her lips move in soft, familiar prayer. She asks not for riches, but for the health of her children, the strength of her husband's hands, the safety of the animals sleeping outside. Does your heart beat a little steadier when you take a moment to gather your hopes, to send them quietly out into the world? The rhythm of ritual slows the mind, draws family close in spirit, if not always in words. Temples and shrines are woven into the fabric of village life. Sometimes, an elder lights incense beneath an image of a beloved deity, Krishna, Hanuman, the mother goddess, or one of myriad ancestors venerated for courage and wisdom. The fragrant smoke twirls upward, a visible offering carrying prayers out into the blue-black sky. The air fills with a sense of the sacred, and with it, deep calm settles. In some corners of the home, meditation is silent. A father or grandfather sits cross-legged near the flickering lamp, breathing slowly, hands resting on his knees. He repeats a mantra, beads flowing between his fingers, each syllable a gentle thread connecting past, present, and yet to come. Children watch, sometimes mimicking the motions, learning the value of stillness and hope. Have you ever listened to the sound of your own breath or heartbeat in the night, letting it anchor and comfort you? Sometimes, prayer is shared aloud, a verse recited together at the edge of the bed, a protective blessing drawn with a thumb on a child's brow, or a song sung in low, almost whispered tones. These moments, unhurried and personal, gather every worry, transforming them into small parcels of faith, bundles to set before God's or the vast night itself. Villagers' faith flows outward too, to the open sky and the temple bells that chime softly in the distance. Some slip out after dusk, walking quietly to add a flower or a tiny bowl of honey to a roadside shrine, pausing in the humid night air to feel the pulse of community prayer in every softly spoken word. Even those with few possessions find comfort in these acts, finding their deepest wealth in belonging and belief. There are prayers for rain, for healing, for peace in the home, for the safe return of travelers. What do you hope for as you close your eyes at night? Do you carry it with you, tucked away like a secret? Or do you whisper it to someone, somewhere, trusting you're not alone in wanting better? These rituals do not guarantee a night without worry, but they anchor the spirit, giving shape and comfort to uncertainty. Even after the last lamp is extinguished and rooms settle into stillness, hope lingers on, in the memory of a mother's blessing, in the soft hum of a song, in the steady faith that the sun will rise again. Faith is the gentle shield woven each evening, draped against the shadows as both comfort and declaration. Yes, we are small, but we are seen. Isn't it reassuring to know that across centuries, prayers have always carried the same longing, a wish for health, safety, and gentler tomorrows? As the hour grows late, let your mind rest gently in this calm. Picture those distant homes, tiny lanterns flickering, voices merging in hope, hands folded as night flows on. And as we quietly move toward the deepest hours, let faith and hope remain with us, a golden thread pulling all who listen into peaceful sleep, waiting for the first color of morning to return. As midnight deepens and the world outside recedes, life inside the Mughal peasant home is gently colored by more than human presence. Have you ever felt the comforting weight of a furry body at your feet? Or heard the reassuring sound of an animal's breath close by in the dark? For so many, animals, whether loyal pets or working livestock, were never just background. They were companions, caretakers, and living sources of comfort when night seemed at its longest. Inside earthen-walled dwellings, the evening temperature falls and cold air thickens. Families draw close for warmth, but so too do their animals. Goats and calves, especially on chill nights, are ushered inside, their bodies radiating a gentle heat that seeps beneath worn blankets and into the hearts of sleeping children. The soft rustling of straw, the steady pulse of chewing, the occasional nuzzling of a moist nose. These are sounds not of intrusion, but of home. Have you ever pressed your hand to the flank of a sleepy animal, feeling the quiet steadiness of their life lend its rhythm to yours? A goat's presence might bring practical security, but more than that, it is a promise that in the midst of uncertainty, life continues and warmth multiplies. Children wrap tiny arms around woolly necks, and even weary adults may unconsciously relax in animal company. Not far from the humans and livestock, the village dogs keep their own watchful sentry. They are half pet, half protector, always alert to the smallest change. Their paws thump lightly across the packed floor or just beyond the door, and every so often, a bark rings out into the night, answering a distant challenger or warning away the boldest intruder, animal or human. Have you ever listened to a dog bark in the night and felt both safer and more aware of the shadows? The villagers trust these canines to sense what human eyes and ears might miss. A jackal circling the livestock, a stranger approaching the property, or another dog seeking the comfort of company. Their presence is a living security system, woven with affection and reliance. Not all animals are tucked indoors. The night itself is alive with companions unseen. Most magical of all, the owls. Their calls, at once mysterious and familiar, cut clean lines through the heavy dark. Can you remember the sound of an owl hooting outside, its cry both haunting and oddly comforting? The villagers interpret owls in many ways. Harbingers, guardians, part of the living landscape that connects roof to tree, field to sky. Their soft flight and sudden calls remind every listener that night belongs to more than just the human world. Beyond owls, other wildlife flutters at the border of awareness. Bats sweep loops in pursuit of insects near the lamp. Small rodents scurry in corners, blending fears and routine. And, in the distance, the yip of jackals tells its own wild tales. All these animals, pets, livestock, and wild neighbors, become essential parts of the nighttime experience. Their heat eases cold muscles. Their voices fill the silence. Their habits, familiar and rhythmic, mark the hours and soothe unease. Have you ever noticed how it is sometimes easier to sleep when the house isn't truly silent? When the subtle presence of another living soul, animal or human, keeps loneliness at bay? The sensory impact is profound. The lanolin scent of goats, the soft brush of fur at one's ankles, the muffled tapping of claws or hooves, the blend of night air and animal breath. These details ground families to the moment, lending texture to hope and courage to endurance. The bond goes beyond utility. Livestock provide milk or guard the property, but in return, they are named, cherished, and mourned if lost. Dogs are taught tricks and fed leftovers. Children spin tales of their favorite calf or the cleverest cat. These relationships weave a living network of affection that lights even the darkest hours. Is there an animal you still remember from childhood? A dog, a goat, even a bird whose voice brought comfort in the night? These memories linger, not just as evidence of companionship, but as proof of how deeply intertwined the stories of people and animals can become. As sleep finally claims the household, human and animal hearts beat together beneath thatched roofs. Dreams and breathing, warmth and safety, all braided into a single tapestry. The comfort of animals continues throughout the night, a gentle, living shield against fear and cold. With dawn still hours away, the sleepy harmony inside outlasts the wild calls and distant prowlers. Every subtle movement, every sound, becomes a lullaby, guiding the entire home, people and animals, as they drift deeper into the calm, ready to greet whatever hope or challenge tomorrow's morning light will softly reveal. Night in the village is rarely as bright or hopeful as when the darkness is pierced by deliberate, joyful celebration. Can you picture a time when, instead of quietly waiting for dawn, an entire community gathers to invite the night to shine, to transform fear and fatigue into laughter, music, and golden flicker? The festivals of Mughal India were radiant moments, their warmth outlasting the glow of lantern and fire. Among these, Diwali stands as queen of nights. As the festival approaches, homes are cleaned and swept. Small courtyards decorated with fragrant marigolds and delicate rangoli. When dusk settles, children and elders alike move from house to house, lighting dozens of tiny earthen lamps, dayas, and carefully placing them on windowsills, walls, and the border of each path. Can you feel the wonder of walking through a village touched by thousands of little flames, every doorway open, every face bathed in new hope? The golden light dances across mud bricks and smiles, carrying wishes for health, prosperity, and the victory of kindness over shadow. The air thrums with excitement and a gentle sense of unity. Sweetmeats are passed from neighbor to neighbor. Laughter is shared as stories of old are retold and new ones are created. Each lamp is a symbol, an invitation for the brilliant, generous heart of the festival to enter and protect. Other nights, the darkness is broken by great harvest fires. After months of laboring beneath the sun, villagers are rewarded with cool evenings filled with grateful joy. Bonfires roar at the village edge, embers spiraling upward, while families offer grains, ghee, or flowers in quiet thanks. Children dart around the flames. Elders raise voices in song. Have you ever watched sparks rise high into the sky, feeling as if your own dreams could hitch a ride with them and reach the stars? These evenings are often simple: bread torn, onions roasted, old songs dusted off and shared once more. Sometimes the greatest light isn't from fire or lamp, but from the movement of people. Dancers whirl in a circle, anklets jingling, hands sweeping patterns that mirror the curve of the moon above. Drums and flutes set the night's tempo, and the shadows that moments before pressed tightly now dance in rhythm with every leap and twirl. Stories are performed and recited, shadows thrown by lanterns growing long and mysterious on the village wall. Did you ever find your cares joining those shifting shadows, lighter and farther away for a night? These gatherings, spontaneous or carefully planned, let hearts beat together in a rhythm older than memory. For peasants and nobles alike, such nights are rare treasures, a break from routine, an affirmation that, no matter how deep the darkness, light will always return. The festivals linger long after the flames die, hope and joy stitched into dreams, neighbors greeting each other with smiles that recall the previous night's magic. Which nighttime festival or tradition brings you the most peace? Share how you celebrate the beauty of night. Is it lamps on thresholds? Are they songs sung in the glow of fire? Maybe it's the gentle heartbeat of a shared dance, laughter under the stars, or stories passed hand to hand. Your reflection might be the spark someone else needs, or a memory that keeps their own darkness gently at bay. As embers die to ash and the first blue shadows of the new day begin to form, the spirit of these nights is carried forward. Every light, every note, every gentle act of celebration is a promise that the darkness, far from being the enemy, can be a canvas, painted over with hope, story, and irreplaceable human connection. Moving onward through the quiet that follows, we remember that all the greatest celebrations are rooted not only in festivals, but in the joining of hearts. And even the most ordinary night can hold a little magic when shared. And so, with music and warmth lingering in the air, the village returns to rest, prepared to welcome whatever next wonder or challenge the night will gently reveal. As twilight settles deeper over the Mughal village, a quiet, determined energy thrums within each home, guided by the diligent hands and careful hearts of its women. Have you ever noticed how the end of the day brings not just stillness, but a final swell of tasks, little rituals, and protectiveness layered with fatigue and love? For village women in Mughal India, night was never simply a time for rest. Instead, it marked a delicate choreography of responsibilities, watchfulness, and the hope to ease the burdens of those they cherished. Even as lanterns glow and voices hush, women's work is far from done. In one corner, a mother stoops to the spinning wheel, feet moving steadily, fingers guiding soft thread through calloused hands. The rhythmic sound of the wheel, soft hums, the shuffling of woven cloth, becomes a kind of lullaby. Do you recall the sounds of your own home at night when work continued long after supper? The gentle clicking of needles or the soft brushing of fabric? In these moments, every stitch carries purpose. Another sari mended, a torn blanket made whole, or cloth woven to trade at market when light returns. The responsibility of safety settles heavily as night deepens. One ear listens for the laughter and quarrels of children, gently folding them into sleep with whispered songs or calming strokes of hair. Babies, swaddled in well-worn cotton, are checked again and again, faces touched, foreheads kissed, bodies turned for comfort. Can you feel the velvety hush as a lullaby drifts through dusk, each note threaded with the deep wish that those in your care will dream peacefully, untouched by fear or want? Household doors are checked with gentle but firm hands, cracks in the thatch pressed tight with old rags or reeds, water pots covered, and lamps trimmed so their glow lasts longer, fending off both darkness and the unknown. The world beyond the threshold is unpredictable. Stray animals, curious strangers, or rumors of nighttime spirits. Yet amid these worries, women forge a sense of sanctuary with routine, tucking children close, securing animals, and sharing a last glance with neighbors, making sure all is well. Work happens in half light, where every movement feels slower, measured. Grains are sifted by touch, fabrics smoothed in shadow, baskets checked for the next day's tasks. Kneeling by a lamp, a daughter untangles her mother's hair, fingers clumsy with fatigue but warmed by affection. Have you brushed hair or sewn a button for someone while the world grew dark? Hands guided by care as much as by sight? It is in this glow, so different from the bold light of noon, that chores become intimate rituals, inscribed with empathy and endurance. A faint breeze might carry in the scent of night air, mixed with the musk of animals and the spicy trace of evening's meal. The low, steady hum of whispered conversation fills gaps, mothers reminding daughters of tomorrow's needs, sisters plotting quiet laughter, grandmothers sharing hints of old wisdom for safety and health. With each passing night, worries gather and are set aside, gathered and set aside again. Women count blankets, check corners for stray embers, stir the fire to life, or let it die in safety. There is pride in these precautions, a knowledge passed from generation to generation that diligence is protection, and that the most ordinary actions can shape the fate of the family. Can you sense the responsibility, the gentle vigilance? To guard is not only to watch over, but to ensure that comfort, warmth, and hope continue for another night. Sometimes it means sharing a bed with a tearful child, sitting awake to ease a cough, or simply listening as the walls carry the soft echoes of the world beyond. These nighttime hours are not simply a sum of toils. They are moments bound with empathy. Each sigh, each song, each careful act is a message. You are loved, waited for, and safe. Even in fatigue, the care persists. Have you ever felt the special, indefinable quiet of a house that slows but does not sleep until everyone is settled? It is a hush that holds so much: worries, hope, and the quiet conviction that light will always return. As the village drifts with the slow, sure rhythm of night, the women's labor slips into memory and habit, weaving a blanket of protection over all who rest within these fragile walls. The faint shuffling of fabric, the softest hum, a final check by lamp. These are the quiet triumphs of night, carrying every home gently, seamlessly, into the deeper embrace of sleep and the dreams that night promises to bring. As darkness embraces the humble peasant home, a gentle, unhurried rhythm settles over everyone within. The world outside recedes, its sounds fading into distant memory, and the soft glow of a lamp draws the family together into a warm, secure circle. Have you ever noticed how night seems to soften voices and slow movements, as if inviting everyone to draw closer and truly belong? Here, in the heart of a Mughal Indian household, comfort is both spoken and silent, woven softly through every gesture and word. The evening's last chores have dwindled away. Blankets and shawls are arranged with care, and the day's worries spiral upward with the thin smoke of the hearth's embers. One by one, family members find their place beside each other, sometimes leaning against an old wall, sometimes resting heads in welcoming laps or sharing a mat. The air is filled with gentle rustling, the swish of woven cloth, a quiet sigh, someone softly combing a child's hair with slow, steady fingers. Within this cocoon, words are low and unhurried. Isn't it true that when you're most exhausted, just the sound of a loved one's voice or their patient listening can soothe more than anything? Parents and grandparents understand this intuitively. Stories, old and well-loved, begin to fill the space. Adventures of clever animals, saints who brought rain with a prayer, family legends born of courage and hope. A grandfather's chuckle rumbles like distant thunder as he recalls the trickster tales of his youth. Children's eyes grow bright as they listen, faces washed in the muted lamplight. Each story is less about its lesson and more about its feeling, the assurance that no matter what waits outside, inside this circle, joy and laughter remain possible. Sometimes, song takes the place of story. A mother hums an old melody, one she learned as a child, the tune floating softly above the beds and mats. Siblings join in, some with full voices, others barely above a whisper, the harmony a gentle tide carrying everyone towards sleep. Have you ever felt a lullaby wrap around you like a blanket, making you feel safe, welcome, and utterly at peace? But comfort is not always found in words or music. There are pauses, long moments, when only the crackle of embers or the steady breath of loved ones fills the room. During these silences, a shared glance or the brush of a hand is enough. The simple knowledge of togetherness, of being loved and kept safe, allows even the most restless mind to quiet itself. In many homes, silent prayers or whispered dreams are shared too. A mother's thumb draws circles on her child's back. A father reaches out to tuck the rug over his youngest son one last time. Eyes close slowly, not with force, but in the gentle rhythm that belonging brings. Notice the details. The trace of sandalwood or jasmine in the air. A faint warmth against your skin as the fire dies. The softest laughter in response to a remembered joke. These are the textures that turn a small, humble room into a sanctuary. Do you recall the last time you felt truly comfortable? Your fingers entwined with someone else's, a pet curled at your feet, the night proceeding without hurry? These moments linger in memory because they are built of care. As the darkness deepens, the bonds between family members feel almost tangible, an invisible net that holds each person gently, yet with surprising strength. Hopes for the coming day, gratitude for surviving another night, and the certainty that, come what may, this togetherness will return each dusk, creating a sense of ease that is hard to name but impossible to forget. With every story told, every song hummed, and every silent embrace, the family prepares not just for sleep, but for dreams filled with reassurance. These rituals of comfort and care are the beating heart of home, reminding everyone that in the end, it is this togetherness that endures, calming the spirit and lighting the way through even the longest night. And as breaths slow and eyes finally close, the warmth of belonging carries everyone gently onward, ready to welcome the first colors of dawn and all the new stories a new day might bring. As the hours stretch deep into the quietest part of night, not every home settles into the comfort of togetherness. Some dwellings stand alone on the village edge, or beyond the fields and forests, separated by winding paths, shadowed groves, and the unbroken hush of darkness. Have you ever spent a night far from others, with only the wind and your own thoughts for company? For those enduring such solitude in Mughal India, the peaceful hush sometimes gathered into an ache of loneliness, one that could haunt even the strongest hearts. At first, the silence is a welcome guest. After a day filled with the clamor of work or the laughter in shared courtyards, solitude arrives as a balm, cool and unhurried. The wind sighs through bamboo groves. A single oil lamp flickers beside a low pallet, throwing soft shadows against the wall. Is there a moment when you feel soothed by quiet, only to discover that, when it lingers too long, it becomes uneasy, even unsettling? With every hour, the sense of separation sharpens. The nearest neighbors are out of sight, their voices swallowed up by distance and night. There is no warmth of shared breath, nor the comfort of a child's hand reaching out in the dark. The house, small and humble by day, grows vast and hollow at night, every creak and sigh of wood and earth magnified. The wind becomes the sole companion, sometimes gentle as a lullaby, sometimes wild as a storm. It rattles loose shutters, sets doors to trembling, and flickers the weak flame of the lamp. Have you ever listened to the wind at night and wondered what stories it carries, how it seems to gather all the fears and regrets you thought were forgotten, then parade them before you in restless loops? Shadows stretch and move as the moon passes overhead, and familiar things take on new, unfamiliar forms. The mind, with no busy hands to distract it, becomes a stage for every old anxiety and half-remembered story. Troubles that felt small by daylight grow tall and strange at midnight. Loneliness sharpens memories of laughter from vanished feasts, the steady presence of loved ones now far away, and the simple security of sleeping within arm's reach of another soul. Has a single empty bed or silent space ever made yesterday's joys feel out of reach? In such moments, longing is almost physical. A hollow ache, a hunger for a voice, a hand, even the sound of another's breathing nearby. Some find solace in ritual, a prayer repeated from childhood, a favorite story recited into the quiet, or a lullaby sung softly just for oneself. These small acts are lifelines, a way to fill the emptiness, to create echoes and reminders that solitude is temporary and that somewhere just beyond the darkness, the world continues. But true terror rises when loneliness tips into fear. Every unexplained noise outside, a branch crashing, a dog's distant bark, the hoot of an owl, seems magnified, its source unknowable and close. Have you ever found your heart racing at a sound with no explanation? Your imagination painting threats where there may be none? The line between solitude and isolation blurs. The safe boundary of home feels thin, and dreams become reflections of doubt or longing for rescue. There is no remedy for these nights but endurance. The bravest souls learn to greet fear as another guest, to be named and noticed, but not allowed to dwell too long. Many find comfort in the morning's promise, counting down the hours until the first softening of the sky, or the calls of birds and distant voices signaling the return of connection. Yet even amid deep isolation, hope survives. Sometimes, the knowledge that others have endured such loneliness brings comfort, a sense that this is a night like many others, that strength is born quietly from waiting, and that dawn will come, bringing relief and new company. If you can remember a long, lonely night survived, you also know the exquisite relief of a new day. The first beam of sun across the floor, the knock at the door, the laughter of a neighbor calling you out. The terrors of isolation are both ancient and uniquely personal, but the story does not end there. As the night edges toward morning, hearts everywhere begin to stir again, hope rising quietly with every lightening of the sky. And so, with patience and humility, each soul finds their way back, from solitude to belonging, from old fears to new beginnings, ready to join the chorus of life that daybreak always, always brings. Night deepens, and the hush inside every home grows heavier, softer, as even the most patient fires turn to quiet embers. Outside, only the faintest movement of night wind and the occasional distant bark of a dog remind the village that the world is still spinning toward morning. Have you noticed how, just before dawn, dreams seem more vivid, how sleep can lighten or grow troubled, clinging to the mind as shadows begin to fade? For peasant families beneath thatch and canvas, sleep brings its own strange journey. In the close sharing of a straw bed or mat, the worries of the day slip away, but not always completely. Have you ever drifted into sleep hoping for peaceful dreams, only to find your mind swept along by memories or fears you didn't know remained? Some nights, rest is deep and sweet. Children dream of mangoes, wild goats, or floating in clear rivers. Mothers revisit homes lost or loved ones far away. Elders walk the fields of youth, their hearts somehow lighter and free. The language of dreams is gentle, their shapes drawn in the pale blue of moonlight that filters through small windows or open eaves. Sometimes, the peace is so complete that sleepers turn, sigh, and nestle even closer, comforted by the sense of protection from all that night can hold. Yet dreams can just as easily turn to nightmares. Has a nightmare ever arrived when you least expected? A disquieting vision that left your heart pounding, desperate for waking? For families living on the edge, fears brought by real hunger, illness, or danger can haunt sleep as surely as any ghost story. The child who shivers in the night, caught in a vision of wolves, or losing their way in the dark. The parent who sees storms, lost crops, or sickness through a blur of uneasy dozing. When the wind howls, or thunder cracks against thin walls, Even mothers and fathers may wake startled, listening for reassurance. The slow, steady breathing of loved ones, the gentle heartbeat of a goat, or the loyal snore of a guard dog outside. Nightmares pass most of the time, leaving behind only traces: a thumping heart, a murmured prayer, a wish for quick return to lighter sleeping. Villagers, knowing how powerful these nighttime visions can be, quietly build rituals to keep nightmares at bay. A knot of thread tied around a wrist, a small flower tucked beneath a child's pillow, a whispered story just before bed. These details are promises. Have you ever clung to a certain lullaby or bedtime habit, convinced it kept the worst dreams away? These routines comfort and allow hope to sneak in on the heels of fear. Some families speak prayers under their breath in the first moments after waking, asking for the new day to wash away bad visions and replace them with strength. Elders might bless children or fill the home with the sound of quiet humming, each note a gentle anchor to the here and now. As the blackness of night finally eases, a nervous hope builds. Will the day bring relief or repeat what yesterday held? Is there a moment for you, caught between dreaming and waking, when you longed for sunlight to scatter the last bits of shadow? In these brief minutes before dawn, even grown-ups sometimes whisper prayers for protection through the coming day. Thanks for surviving, and a wish for dreams that will bring ease. Birds begin to call, windows lighten from inky blue to pearly gray, and sleepers slowly awaken, carrying their dreams, both sweet and scary, into a world gently reborn. Children rub their eyes, trying to recall visions of running fast, finding lost siblings, or talking to the moon. Elders stretch and breathe deeply, letting go of the night's heaviness, grateful for morning's first taste of clarity. No matter what sleep has brought, its tapestry of dreams and nightmares is something known to all. Do you sometimes share your dreams when you wake, hoping their magic or their terror will fade when spoken aloud? Families in Mughal India did just so, comparing dream stories over bread or by the well, turning solitary visions into communal lore, laughing at the fantastical ones and soothing away lingering chills. In these simple acts of sharing, the community stitches itself back together. One more dawn, one more night survived, and many more dreams, in turn, woven gently into the living fabric of the day ahead. As the last bits of darkness slip away, the village breathes a quiet, collective sigh. Dreams, whether wild, sweet, or troubled, are left behind for a while, paving the way for gratitude, small joys, and the light that comes with every new beginning. And with this soft transition, we walk hand in hand toward the warmth and hope of morning, leaving the terrors of the night in the gentle care of memory. The deepest hush of night slowly gives way, almost invisibly, to hints of color along the horizon. Have you ever watched the world brighten one gentle streak at a time? First gray, then pale blue, then gold, each change too delicate to catch until suddenly, the very air feels softer and freshly alive? In Mughal India, the renewal offered by dawn was a gift as precious as any feast or fire, welcomed quietly, gratefully, and with a sense of hope that only morning can bring. At first, there is just the faintest blush, a peach or rose-violet stripe stretching above distant fields, touching the tops of trees, barely illuminating rooftops still heavy with dew. Walls, chill and shadowed through endless hours, begin to absorb the new warmth, losing their stiffness and breathing out the cold. Tiny golden dots, cast by cracks in mud and thatch, dart across floors where sleepy eyes open and limbs stir beneath woven blankets. Can you remember the first bird call you heard on a special morning? The sweet chirrup or soft coo that marked the beginning of movement, of new possibility? In the village, These sounds build gently, the trill of sparrows, the persistent song of Minos, a distant rooster declaring his faith in the day. Together, they form a living lullaby in reverse, one that wakes instead of soothes, drawing every listener from dreams and into the gentle current of morning. The sun continues its slow climb, painting colors across every field, pond, and courtyard. Crops once shrouded in fog now reveal their true green, beads of water gleaming like 1,000 jewels in the angled light. Farmers and animals alike raise their heads, breathing in the freshness that lies between the last mist of night and the promise of hard work to come. Does the first true sunlight of the day ever feel like an answer to a silent prayer, a reassurance that nothing dark or cold can last forever? Inside homes, warmth seeps into the bones of the house and its people. Children wriggle free of their covers, drawn to little squares of sun that fall across the floor, a patch for playing, sitting, or simply basking, noses upturned to the gentle heat. Mothers open doors, letting the new air swirl in and break the staleness left behind by night. Every sigh, every word, even the simplest breakfast, tastes different with the world illuminated and safe. The village exhales, sounds multiply, grinding stones at work, laughter exchanged in quiet voices, the low conversation of elders sharing news while they walk to the well. Animals leave their sheltered corners, stretching in the sun, softly nudging children who nibble on bread or reach to scratch a familiar, friendly ear. Have you felt your own morning routines shaped by this quiet but compelling momentum? A slow build from rest to movement, anxiety melting to contentment. For each member of the household, movement emerges shyly, but with purpose. Mats are rolled, beds made neat, floors swept with brushes made from grass and old cloth. Fires are rekindled for tea and for meals. Babies bathed in lukewarm water, spiced with leaves or a drop of oil. All of this happens to a background of bird call, a gentle, living music that ties one dawn to the next. There is a feast for the senses in these hours, cool air in the lungs, the brightness of colors reappearing in homespun cloth, the rich, sweet tang of smoke and boiling milk. Fingers trace sun-warmed walls. Eyes squint in the morning. Bodies adjust eagerly to the new temperature. Each detail becomes a gentle marker, proof that the world, after darkness and dream, is ready to be touched again. Is there a morning smell or sound that makes you feel especially alive? Maybe the scent of grass, the promise in a parent's voice, or simply the feeling of clean sheets beside an open window. These details, tiny and sacred, weave into the beginning of every day, granting strength before the bustle truly begins. There is more than relief in these moments. There's gratitude. The memory of fear and hardship, softened by sleep and silence, becomes perspective. Hearts open just a little wider. Smiles come easier. The steps outside seem less daunting. Even chores are lighter, partners in a new opportunity rather than burdens to bear. Does your own heart sometimes feel changed by a beautiful morning? The knowledge that you have arrived safely, that you may try again with kindness and hope. Dawn in the village is a reminder that darkness always breaks, that rest is earned and renewal possible, and that in the slow, luminous unfolding of day, all things, wounds, worries, even the sharpest hunger, can soften and become manageable. As the last hints of night slip gently beyond the edges of thought, life resumes its unhurried momentum. The birds grow bolder, the village grows louder, and gentle optimism quietly replaces survival's edge. In these golden hours, the story of night and struggle is, for a while, set aside, leaving only the quiet certainty that with every morning, the heart and home are renewed. Let that feeling settle with you, warm, hopeful, and calmly alive as you prepare to journey onward, carrying the gentle strength of dawn into the day and the tranquil memory of light into every night that follows. As the final soft rays of dawn settle over the fields and gentle voices rise to begin another day, it is time for us, too, to pause and reflect. Have you ever reached the end of a long night, real or imagined, wondering what gifts or wisdom you might carry forward? For the villagers of Mughal India, and for all of us, every uneasy night is both a test and a quiet teacher. As this journey closes, let us settle in, breathe deeply, and gently gather the lessons that the darkness so tenderly revealed. Night, with all its discomfort and fear, is a slow reminder of patience. The villagers who survived hardship, hunger, or isolation did so not by running from the dark, but by letting it pass over and through them. Do you remember a time when you simply waited, when there was nothing to do but hold still until the worry eased, the storm passed, or the morning finally arrived? Waiting, watching, and hoping. These are not merely signs of helplessness. They are the seeds of strength. Endurance, too, takes many forms. The careful tending of a single coal, the holding of a child's hand into sleep, a whispered song or prayer when the future is uncertain. It is the tiny promise, I will be here, I will stay. And little by little, the night moves on. Again and again, we've seen how bonds between family, neighbors, and even quietly offered kindness from a stranger soften the hardest nights. Have you ever found comfort in the smallest gesture? A bowl of food, a shared fire, a gentle story? Community, in all its forms, becomes a lamp in the dark. It is easy to believe we face our struggles alone, but most often, it is the circle we draw close that protects us. From the laughter of children huddled in straw beds to the confidence in a neighbor's knock, togetherness is both shelter and medicine. Each act, no matter how small, lays another brick in the quiet wall of security we build for ourselves and others. These nights, and our journey through them, remind us of an often overlooked courage, the willingness to be vulnerable, to admit fear, to tell a story, to ask for help. These are brave choices. Can you remember a time when you allowed your own fears to be visible, and through this, discovered kindness, understanding, or your own inner gentleness? When darkness presses in, accepting it and seeking comfort does not make us weaker. It makes us beautifully, steadfastly human. The repetition of humble rituals, making beds, stoking fires, sharing a meal, takes on new meaning after long, uneasy nights. Each small comfort, each moment of ease, stands out as a jewel discovered in the dust. Is there something ordinary in your life that, just for tonight, you'd like to thank quietly? A dry place to sleep, a favorite blanket, a friend's message, or someone's remembered smile? Gratitude opens our hearts, inviting warmth and optimism where anxiety once lingered. Above all, these nights teach us to embrace the soft, secure edges of the present. There is so much we cannot know. What the next storm will bring, when hunger will ease, or how our worries will change with the dawn. Yet there is warmth in the moment. The lamp beside our bed, the roof above, the promise of gentle voices waiting when we wake. Have you ever held your own hand, or simply reminded yourself, right now, I am safe, I am enough, and this moment is all I need? The world turns, the sun always returns, and every night, no matter how endless, becomes memory and lesson. As you rest, let the quiet courage, patience, and gratitude gathered here tonight fill your heart and mind. May you find peace as dusk settles around you again. May you carry the strength of endurance, the blessing of togetherness, and the gentle grace of being present into every tomorrow. Thank you for joining this journey. May your own nights be restful, your days gentle, and your heart always warmed by the lessons carried forward from even the darkest hour. And now, may you sleep softly, welcomed by the gentle hush of all that you have learned and all that you have yet to dream. Before you drift into rest, would you share in the comments what lesson from tonight's journey touched you the most, or what you're grateful for right now? Your words might bring comfort to someone else listening tonight.